go 500? 500. Go ahead. 5.5. Anybody 550? I got 500 here. 5.5.
Whoa!
$550.
Tag team!
Do it. Take it out. What are you thinking? You want to go 5?
Storage Wars stars and where they are now. Storage Wars stars bid on abandoned lockers for years. Now their own lives look abandoned. One star suffered 2 heart attacks and lost everything. Another got arrested for domestic violence. A third was nearly killed in a motorcycle crash. Some went from TV fame to driving delivery trucks. Others built secret empires worth millions. The truth about what happened to these reality stars is darker than any episode they ever filmed. Daryl Sheets. Daryl Sheets was known as the gambler on Storage Wars, always chasing big wins and high risks. But after leaving the show in 2017, his real-life story took a turn even more dramatic than anything fans had seen on screen. It all started quietly, behind the scenes. For 3 months in early 2019, Daryl had been feeling off. He kept it to himself until his body finally gave out. He suffered not 1, but 2 heart attacks. At 60 years old, he was suddenly facing something far worse than a bad storage unit, a fight for his life. The diagnosis was brutal: congestive heart failure, serious lung problems. And this came just after he had lost 100 pounds using Nutrisystem. He thought he was getting healthier. He thought he was turning a corner. But just as he fixed the outside, the inside broke down. The timing couldn't have been more painful. Daryl was forced to walk away from the auction world completely. It had been his life for over 30 years. Now, from a hospital bed, he posted a raw message on Instagram. He told fans he'd had a mild heart attack. He told them about the hidden illness, the emergency surgery, and the terrifying reality he was facing. He said the experience changed everything. It made him rethink his entire life, and life kept throwing him curveballs. During his health scare, Daryl's fiancée Romney Snyder stood by him. They had been engaged since late 2016, but the bond that helped him through his illness didn't last. By 2022, it was over, and not just quietly. When a fan mentioned Romney on social media, Daryl's reply was harsh. He called those years some of my worst. Then came a twist no one expected. He got back together with his ex-wife, Kimber Werfel. They had divorced in 2016, but by 2021, they were celebrating their 10-year anniversary. Daryl posted sweet messages online, calling them just a couple of kids happy to be together. It was never confirmed if they legally remarried, but they seemed like a couple again. After years of chaos, Daryl found peace in a place he had once left behind. And that peace extended far beyond his love life. Daryl moved to Lake Havasu City, Arizona. He left behind California, the storage units, and the cameras. He started fresh. No more gambling on dusty lockers. Instead, he opened a small business called Show Me Your Junk, where he sells collectibles and sometimes buys items that catch his eye. But it's nothing like the wild world he used to live in. Daryl used to be the guy who scored 4 Picassos in 1 unit. The guy who once found the world's most valuable comic book stash. Now, he's a man who shares peaceful photos from the lake and writes, "Just loving life." He spends his days with his new girlfriend, Patty Rich. She owns vineyards and restaurants. It's a different world, a quieter, calmer one. And Daryl seems happier there than he ever was in the chaos. Barry Weiss. Barry Weiss was never about chaos. He was always the collector. Quirky, cool, different. He left Storage Wars in 2013 when the show was still huge. Most people would have stayed for the fame and money, but Barry didn't care. He wanted to quit while he was on top. He wanted to go back to what he called being a professional slacker. That decision surprised everyone, but Barry wasn't done with TV just yet. In 2014, he launched Buried Treasure. It only lasted 8 episodes. The next year, he came back with Barry Strikes Back, which ran for 10. After that, Barry disappeared from the spotlight until something terrible happened. In April 2019, Barry was riding his motorcycle in Los Angeles with a friend. They were hit by a car. The crash was serious. Barry was badly hurt. His chest and legs were crushed. He needed multiple surgeries and stayed in the ICU for days. It was a close call. Fans were stunned. Updates came from a friend named Jamie, who posted from the hospital. Barry wasn't just facing physical pain. This changed how he saw everything: his fame, his lifestyle, and his future. When he recovered, Barry did something unexpected. He didn't go back to reality TV. He didn't return to auctions. Instead, he became the face of Sherwood Valley Casino. He started doing voiceover work too, helping promote casinos across Northern California. It wasn't just a gig, it was a reinvention. Barry had taken a near-death experience and used it to carve out a brand new life. Ivy Calvin Ivy. Calvin wasn't just another face on Storage Wars. When the cameras stopped rolling, his real journey began. He turned his reality TV fame into something bigger, something built to last. In 2009, just 1 year after entering the storage locker business, he opened his own thrift store called Grandma's Attic. It wasn't your average secondhand shop. This place stayed open from 10 in the morning until midnight, and sometimes even until 3 a.m. almost every single day. That kind of grind made his store a magnet for customers. People came in constantly, and items flew off the shelves just as fast as they came in. By the time he joined Storage Wars in 2012, Ivy had already laid the foundation for a business empire. And within a few years, his efforts paid off. His net worth climbed to around $1.5 million, thanks to both the show and the profits from Grandma's Attic. Every weekend, the store became an event. Yard sales were held on Saturdays and Sundays, offering rare finds from the show. Fans and bargain hunters traveled from all over California just to get a piece of it. But it wasn't just luck. Ivy had a plan. He didn't just wait for local auctions. He traveled whenever he had to, hunting for deals. With 16 years of experience under his belt, he was nearly impossible to trick. While others tried to play mind games at auctions, Ivy stayed cool and calculated. He also knew how to keep people talking. The store's Facebook page wasn't just for fun, it was business. He used it to keep his audience engaged, promote events, and show off new treasures. Behind the scenes, Ivy was building a machine that kept running day and night. At home, things were just as carefully thought out. Ivy married Wendy in 2014, and together they focused on raising their 2 sons, Ivy Jr. and Isaiah. But this wasn't just about family dinners and vacations. Ivy brought his boys into the business. Both sons appeared on Storage Wars during season 13. He even let them lead bidding on storage units. It wasn't just trust, it was training. He was grooming them to take over. Off camera, their life was filled with outdoor adventures. Hunting and fishing trips became more than just hobbies. They were bonding moments. They taught the boys about patience, persistence, and teamwork, values Ivy had relied on his whole life. The lessons from the wilderness mirrored the lessons from the business world. Ivy wanted his sons to be ready for both. Before any of this, Ivy had lived a completely different life. In 1995, he played arena football for the San Jose SaberCats. He ran for 75 yards, scored a touchdown, caught a few passes, and made 4 tackles in just 7 games. Later, he even tried his hand at MMA. Those sports shaped how he thought, how he competed, and how he stayed tough when things got hard. That mental strength carried over into every bid he made and every decision he took as a businessman. Despite his fame, Ivy never let the spotlight get too bright. Yes, he posts about cool items like Star Wars collectibles and Baby Yoda merchandise, but he doesn't overshare. His wife Wendy keeps a low profile. The one major public appearance she made was with him in 2014 at the Reality Wanted Awards. That's it. Everything else kept private. Ivy had seen what fame could do. He chose to keep control. Dave Hester. Dave Hester took a completely different path after Storage Wars. In 2012, he turned the whole reality TV world upside down with one move, a $3.75 million lawsuit against A&E. His claims were explosive. According to Dave, producers planted valuable items in storage units to fake drama. One example, a locker filled with newspapers announcing Elvis Presley's death. Dave said it was worth over $90,000, yet he bought the unit for just $750. And he didn't believe it was a coincidence. He claimed producers were staging everything, down to luxury cars and entire lockers full of treasure. Worse, he said they were even giving money to other buyers so they could win auctions they normally couldn't afford. When Dave pushed back and said it felt illegal, they fired him just like that. He said he couldn't be part of something fake, and he took them to court. At first, things didn't look good. A judge tossed out the claims in 2013, but by September, a different judge allowed the wrongful termination part of the case to move forward. The lawsuit dragged on for nearly 2 years before finally settling in 2014. No one knows the exact terms, but A&E stood by their position. They never staged anything. Once the dust settled, Dave disappeared from TV, but he didn't quit auctions. Instead of chasing more fame, he went back to basics. He organized real storage auctions across California. No cameras, no catchphrases, just the sound of an auctioneer calling out bids. In 2023, he held a major event in San Luis Obispo with over 75 units on the block. Most people there didn't even recognize him. Or if they did, they didn't mention his TV past. But the real world wasn't as glamorous. In 2020, Dave ran into serious trouble. He paid nearly $12,000 for a storage unit that Public Storage later said should never have been sold. The original renter had already paid their bill, but the system didn't update. Dave fought back, demanding either the unit or a refund. Public Storage refused. The case went to court. Dave lost, not just the unit, but the money and the legal costs too. For someone rebuilding after TV, it was a brutal hit. Through it all, Dave stayed silent about his personal life. He married Donna Hester, but how they met remains a mystery. They have a son, but he stays out of the public eye. Dave made a clear choice. After everything that came with TV fame, he wanted peace. The Hesters didn't turn their lives into content. They didn't chase social media deals. They focused on home, on privacy, on keeping life steady. Brandy Passante and Jared Schultz. Brandy Passante and Jared Schultz were once seen as reality TV's power couple. Fans watched them argue, laugh, and hustle through dusty storage units on Storage Wars for years. But once the cameras stopped rolling, their lives took a turn no one expected. After the 12th season ended in 2018, Brandy made a life-changing decision. She ended her long relationship with Jared, but she kept it quiet. For nearly 3 years, no one knew they had split. Then, in April 2021, during the show's return, the truth came out. Brandy later described that relationship as a very difficult situation. She said she had lost her identity for many years, and fans were shocked. Behind the scenes, her life wasn't what it seemed. Things became even more serious in April 2021. That month, she ran into Jared at a bar in Orange County. It should have been just another night out, but it ended in violence. Brandy asked him to leave. Instead, he shouted and pushed her twice. By the time police arrived, Jared was gone, but the damage was done. The district attorney charged him with misdemeanor domestic violence. This wasn't just a celebrity breakup, it was something much deeper and darker. Brandy also opened up about raising their 2 kids, Cameron and Peyton, mostly by herself. She said she was already doing it alone before the split. "I did a lot of it on my own anyway," she said during a Facebook Live chat. "She has full custody now. It's the scary dad voice in the background that we're missing," she added. But even with all the pain, Brandy moved forward. She launched a YouTube podcast called Happening Now with Hammer. She found a new partner, Clifford Beaver, and recent reports in May 2025 suggest marriage might be on the horizon. From feeling invisible to taking control of her life, Brandy's transformation has been nothing short of remarkable. Jared's story went in the opposite direction. After 2019, he was no longer a regular on Storage Wars. His only return was a brief appearance in 2021. But the vibe had changed. He and Brandy kept their distance, and viewers could feel the tension. That same year, the bar incident shook everything. Jared denied the claims, but he left the scene before police arrived. Fans who once saw the couple as funny and loving were stunned. He had been on the show since 2010, and even starred in a spin-off called Brandy and Jared, married to the job in 2014. But by 2021, his reputation had crumbled. After his exit from television, Jared stayed quiet. No more shows, no interviews. Instead, he focused on a new business. He now owns Rush Bar and Grill in Lake Forest, California. It's a big shift from reality TV fame. Social media hints that he's dating someone new, but he hasn't said much about the split or the charges. His old business, the Now and Then thrift store, didn't survive either. The Long Beach branch closed in 2016 because it never made a profit. What started as a fun, flashy TV duo became a cautionary tale. Brandy rebuilt her life. Jared stepped away from the spotlight. Dan and Laura Dodson. Dan and Laura Dodson became household names thanks to Storage Wars, but their story is much bigger than just reality TV. Long before the cameras started rolling, Dan had been working as an auctioneer since 1983. When he met Laura in 1996, she wasn't just his future wife. She became his business partner too. Together, they built American Auctioneers into a powerful auction company. They didn't just stop there. Their company took on everything from storage units and estates to business inventories and legal foreclosures. On average, they handled 2 auctions a day, 6 days a week. It wasn't just a job, it was their life. But that life nearly came to a sudden end on June 16, 2014. In the early hours of the morning, Laura noticed something wasn't right. Dan was mumbling strange things in his sleep. By 7:30 a.m., he was awake but confused, seeing double and feeling dizzy. Then, after a shower, he collapsed. He stopped breathing. Laura immediately called 911. The operator gave her CPR instructions, and she followed them without hesitation. Paramedics rushed Dan to the hospital. Doctors told Laura that Dan had suffered a double brain aneurysm. His chance of survival was between 4% and 20%. Surgery had to be done right away. Somehow, Dan pulled through. Recovery took time. It was slow and painful. But Dan was determined. He pushed through months of therapy just to get back to doing what he loved, auctioneering. That health scare changed both of them. They became more focused on family, more grateful for each moment, and even more committed to the business they built together. In 2015, they took their work online by acquiring StorageAuctions.net. That move brought them into the digital auction world, covering listings across the US and Canada. Their timing was perfect, catching the rise of online bidding. Laura's net worth, estimated at $4.5 million, reflected the success they'd earned, not just from Storage Wars, but from years of hard work in the auction world. It's no wonder Examiner.com once said, Dan and Laura Dodson inspired Storage Wars. Without them, the show might never have existed, but life didn't stop throwing punches. In September 2020, their son Garrett was shot in the chest in Arizona. The Dodsons were devastated, but once again, the family pushed through. Garrett survived, he recovered, and now he shares glimpses of his new life online, photos of fast cars, boats, and skiing adventures. It's clear that he, too, has inherited his parents' strength. All these challenges only made the Dodsons more determined to give back. They began donating their time and auctioneering services to charities, especially those helping children and supporting education. One of their biggest charity events took place in August 2019, aboard the USS Zumwalt destroyer, helping raise funds for the U.S. Navy. Just a few months later, they hosted another major event at Real Housewives star Kyle Richards' home. That one raised over $100,000 for charity. It was even filmed by Bravo TV. Rene and Casey Neoda. Rene and Casey Neoda started out as familiar faces on Storage Wars, but they didn't stop there. While most of the cast faded when the show slowed down, Rene and Casey took a very different route. They used the attention they got on TV to launch something much bigger, something digital. And that decision changed everything. It began while they were still on the show. Instead of just focusing on storage units, they turned on their cameras and brought the audience behind the scenes. They posted videos on their YouTube channel, Bargain Hunters Thrift, showing the items they found, the deals they made, and even bits of their personal life. That channel grew fast. Over 192,000 people subscribed. Their videos about thrifting and storage finds started earning serious money. In fact, Rene's net worth grew to $1.5 million. Not from TV, but mostly from online sales and digital content. While other cast members were still hoping for another season, the Neodas were building a new kind of business. They hired employees to list their items on eBay. It wasn't just a side hustle, it was a full operation. Rene had actually been selling online since 1995. Long before social media exploded, he was already ahead of the curve. One of their biggest and boldest moves came in 2021. That's when they closed their physical store in Poway, California. It had been running for over 10 years and was 7,000 square feet. But when their lease ended, they didn't renew it. The store wasn't failing, it was a choice. They wanted to go fully digital. Fans were stunned, but looking back, it was a smart pivot, especially with storage wars heading toward cancellation. Their online presence wasn't just about sales, it also became a place where they shared raw, personal moments. After a 2019 robbery at their store, Rene posted a heated video. Thieves had taken rare coins and baseball cards. He was furious. He warned future burglars that he was armed and wouldn't hesitate to protect his property. It was a side of him fans hadn't seen before. On TV, he had seemed measured. Online, he let his guard down. Their videos also opened a window into their marriage. When Casey started appearing less on the show in 2016, fans assumed there were problems. Rumors about divorce began to spread, but the couple shut those down through their content. They talked openly about the challenges of working together, raising their daughter Tatiana, and handling fame. It was messy, honest, and real. Then came something unexpected. In March 2024, their YouTube uploads stopped completely. Their social media stayed active, especially Instagram, where they still shared glimpses of thrifting and family moments. But their main content hub, YouTube, went quiet. Fans began speculating. Were they planning a return to TV? A new business? Or did something personal happen? The timing raised even more questions. Around the same time, Storage Wars was officially canceled. Maybe they were planning their next chapter. Maybe they had something bigger coming, or maybe they just needed a break. No one knows for sure. Brandon Sheets. Brandon Sheets didn't expect his life to change so suddenly. One day, he was a familiar face on Storage Wars, bidding on dusty units beside his dad. Then, in 2016, everything stopped. After 9 seasons and 163 episodes, he was fired. No warm goodbye, no send-off, just a quiet exit, followed by a bitter post on social media. He said A&E dropped him for budget reasons, yet they still followed him online, still wanted free content from him. Fans were stunned. Brandon had been there since the very first episode back in 2010. They called him the side bet, the young guy backing up his dad, Daryl the gambler Sheets. But suddenly, he wasn't part of the show anymore. It hit hard. A&E decided to keep Daryl, the bigger character, and let Brandon go. It wasn't just a job, it was his identity for nearly a decade. So what now? For Brandon, it meant starting over from scratch. He moved to Queen Creek, Arizona. No more cameras, no more bidding wars. Instead, he got his real estate license and joined Keller Williams. Then, in 2022, something even more surprising happened. He picked up another job driving for UPS, from reality TV fame to working 2 jobs in real estate and logistics. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work, and it paid the bills. Brandon's personal life shifted too. He married Melissa in 2015. They'd already welcomed their daughter Adeline in 2011, and in 2019, their son, Layden Sean, was born. Online, Brandon poked fun at his new suburban life. He created a mini parody show called Average Middle Class Life, mocking MTV cribs. No mansions or gold chains, just pancakes, BBQ chicken, and jokes about fatherhood. The fame was gone, but the humor wasn't. Then, in June 2024, tragedy nearly struck. Brandon survived a serious car accident. It could have ended his story right there, but he pulled through, just like he had when the show ended. His dad's own health scare, heart attack, and heart failure in 2019 probably added even more urgency to Brandon's new path. Family came first now. Fame was no longer the goal. Today, his net worth is around $300,000. Not flashy, but solid. And it's all built from real work, not TV drama. Crossley. Crossley took a different route. He used Storage Wars as a launch pad. Born in 1973 in Mississippi, he was already in his 40s when he joined the show, a former sheriff's deputy turned storage hunter. But no one expected what came next. Kenny didn't just chase abandoned lockers, he built an empire. His biggest shock? Music. For more than 12 years, he's been making beats and producing tracks. Under names like Kenny Do It and Dual Personality, he's worked with underground artists like Little Daddy. Music wasn't just a side gig, it became a serious part of his life. And somehow, he balanced it with TV and everything else. Kenny also turned Uber into a money-making machine. Not just through rides, through content. His series, Kenny's Uber Adventures, went viral. He filmed his rides, reviewed food, and posted it all online. While driving, he was also building a YouTube audience. He even reviewed Costco hot dogs and apple fritters during shifts. It was smart. He got paid for driving and for content. One job fed another. Then came the merch. Kenny Do It shirts sold online for $25 each. He also became the self-proclaimed Praline King, running a small business selling Southern sweets. His clothing store, his food content, his music all added up. By 2021, his net worth hit $2 million. Not bad for someone who started out managing a storage facility. Mary Padon. Mary Padon faced a rougher path. When the show went on pause in 2019, she was in a tough spot. Her store, Mary's Finds, had been a fan magnet in Texas. People loved her style, turning old junk into beautiful home pieces. But with no show and global events slowing everything down, foot traffic dried up. In 2020, she shut her shop. That could have been the end, but Mary pivoted fast. She moved everything online. Fans followed. When she listed vintage items online, they sold out in minutes. Her television fame now worked in the digital world. She didn't need a physical shop anymore. Behind the scenes, Mary's private life remained a mystery. For years, people wondered if she was dating anyone. Turns out, she was. Her partner's name is Dylan. They met years ago and kept things quiet. He even appeared on Storage Wars in 2017, but no one knew they were a couple. They've kept it private, posting only small glimpses, photos, hangouts, little moments together. It was rare for someone in the public eye, but it worked for Mary. Then came something no one expected: Kenya. Mary got involved with Ubuntu Life, a nonprofit that helps kids with neurological conditions and supports local women through fair trade crafts. She didn't just donate money, she helped design products. One of their biggest hits was the Joy Bracelet, handmade in Kenya. All profits went to the charity. Mary used her platform not for profit, but for impact. It was a huge shift, from Texas vintage store owner to global humanitarian. She promoted the work on social media, not for attention, but to bring support to the cause. Her fame became a tool, not a goal.